Greetings, it's HawgDawg. Hey, today we are in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina in a Bell 206, and we are going to touch on some of the finer points of flying helicopters in FSX. Um, okay, well, let's get started. Looking at the dashboard, and let me zoom in here a little bit. Got my track IR going, so I have to be kind of careful about zooming in because everything gets kind of fast when you have when you're zoomed in. But anyway, looking at the cockpit, there are five instruments that I watch on a regular basis while I'm flying a helicopter. Starting here with the torque percentage, this one I watch quite often, and this one I watch all the time. But you'll notice that this is set from 0 to 100%. And that's your torque percentage of your engine. As we zoom in, it has a green area, and it stops at like 85% in the green, and then it goes to yellow, and then at 100% it's red. And you don't want to take your torque percentage past that red line because you end up over torquing your engine. It doesn't have much of an effect here in FSX, but in reality, it would, and you don't get much more performance. Actually, you don't get any performance increase between taking that from 100 or beyond 100. So it's about the same performance. At any rate, you'll notice that torque percentage is currently at 30%. That's because we're sitting on the ground, getting ready to take off, and we're idle. And at idle, 30% is pretty normal. Not just for this helicopter, but for pretty much any helicopter. Varying helicopters have varying torque percentage expectations at idle, but 30% is a good number to start with in thinking that that's what it should be. You might find it a little different in larger helicopters. As we increase our collective, you'll notice that needle goes with our collective. Here I'm going to increase it to 40%, and then I'm going to decrease it back to 30%. And that's almost it's almost like it's very much in tune with your collective. So as you raise your collective, it's almost like you're raising that needle. So you want to do that very slowly. And before we take off, I do want to talk about forward speed, which is currently at 0. Our attitude indicator, our altitude, and our climb indicator. Certainly in a helicopter, when you take off, you want to be going forwards because you can't really see anything behind you. You can take off in reverse, backwards. I do it all the time, but generally when you take off, you want to make sure that needle starts going downward and not just staying where it's at, otherwise you're flying backwards. This attitude indicator will really help with that. If you bring the brown upwards, you'll start flying forwards. Of course, your altitude, currently we're at, I guess, sea level. It says -1. I probably need some kind of an adjustment here. Oh yeah, now we're at 39 feet. I had to do a barometric pressure adjustment. And you'll notice our climb indicator is at 0 because we're on the ground, we're not going up and we're not going down. And when we're ascending, we want to make sure that needle never goes below 0. So as we start to take off, make sure that stays somewhere between 0 and, here, let's get in a little closer. That 1 indicates 1,000 feet per minute. 5 is 500 feet per minute. You really don't want to ascend faster than 1,000 feet per minute in a helicopter because you'll be vertical, you'll lose torque. There's a number of reasons why you really don't want to. You can, but you don't really want to. At any rate, getting back to the collective, as I increase the collective, you'll notice that the torque percentage increases, and we're going to increase it to 50%. When we get to 50%, now the helicopter is still on the ground, but I can maneuver it. I can turn it because it's kind of like floating there. We're still on the ground, but just kind of scraping the skids along as we're turning at 50% in the 206. And you'll find that again at 50%, that's pretty normal for most helicopters. But as we increase it, and you'll notice that that needle goes up to 60%, at 60% she'll actually start to take off very, very slowly. Very, very slowly. So I like to take mine up 70%, 80, 85, and hold it at 85 at the end of the green on that indicator. I don't even go into the yellow. And that's how I take off in the Bell 206. Again, we're watching that forward speed indicator. It is on the downward path, so we're starting to go forward, and we're climbing. You can see that in the climb indicator, and you can see that in the altitude indicator. Now as I fly forward, and I'm starting to lose a little altitude because I lean forward a little too much. So as I lean back, you'll notice that that climb indicator goes back to 0. I could increase my collective. I don't want to over torque to get that back to 0, but I can only go so far with the collective. I can't lean the helicopter as far forward as I want and still maintain level flight. So I can also chase that vertical speed indicator with the pitch of the nose. And that's something that's one of the things I look for, is that climb indicator to make sure I'm not climbing or descending when I don't want to be. Now, if I don't really care and I'm just flying along the coast, I'm not really watching the needle. I'm just looking outside. But certainly when I take off, I'm watching my instruments, and when I land, I'm going to be watching my instruments. And we'll come back in and we'll touch down. The scenery you're seeing, the clouds and the reflection on the water, all that is from wrecks. If you don't have wrecks, I would highly recommend it. It changes this game immensely. I'm just going to look for a helipad to touch down on. Notice we're in forward flight, nice and easy, 70 knots or less, coming in over the airport. I'm going to keep it a couple hundred feet above the ground, and I just judge that by the buildings, just kind of fly over them. Now, I'm not seeing the helipad. I know there is one here, but that little circle area, which is a turnaround for jets, looks like an excellent place to set a helicopter down. So the first thing you want to do when landing a helicopter, of course, is bleed all your speed off. Not quite yet, because I'm not quite there, but to quickly bleed your speed, all you have to do is turn the helicopter, and you'll notice the speed starts dropping. Treat your collective like a float. Very slow, very, very slow movements. And you could be watching that torque indicator too. Remember those percentages, 60, 50, and again 40, you'll be on the ground. Notice we didn't even bounce. Well, that's how to fly a helicopter, and those are the instruments that I watch when I fly helicopters in FSX. Thanks for watching.